All right. So, thank you for sitting down with me. How's your day been so far?
Cool. My day's just starting, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
First
We
thing,
played last night, so.
Yeah. I saw 2 nights in a row, right? You had the Riverside one and then Desert Hot Springs.
Yep.
Yeah. How are those?
Cool, man. Last night was really like a lot of young people. So that was always cool. You know, it's always cool.
Yeah.
They danced a lot, so. I mean, yeah, it was great.
Okay, right on.
Yeah,
cool. How is it's interesting to me because like when I was in a band, we would play shows like out here or in Pomona, and that was our like hour drive shows. You know, I'm assuming Desert Hot Springs is a similar thing for you.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like an hour out of the way. How is the like? Is it just a wasteland out there? Like, it doesn't seem to be as much population, so it makes me wonder how the like crowd for a show is, how the scene is out there.
Yeah, you know, I didn't know what to expect.
Okay.
Going out there because I mean, we do play everywhere. But I've just never been there. But skate shop seems like it's probably the only skate shop like that around there. Yeah. The kids that were there, I think, like hang out there all the time. You know. And also in my experience, like when there is somewhere where there's just kind of like not much to do around, the shows go off because that's the thing to do.
That's their one time to really do something.
Yeah.
How long have you guys been a band?
So they've been a band for about 6 years or so. Maybe even a little longer. I've been in the band about a year. Kind of by accident, I guess. I was supposed to fill in for our drummer.
Okay.
And then they kind of found out I played guitar, and I started jamming with them on guitar, and then I just kind of stuck around. So.
Okay,
yeah.
right on. How many, have you been on any of the projects that have released yet? You said you've been with them about a year?
Yeah. So the 2 singles that we did this year, I was on those.
Okay.
And then their EP was just before I joined. Yeah.
Okay, right on. What's your background in music? How did you get into making music?
Well, I've been in bands forever. I think the earliest I was like 14 or so. I've just been in bands since then. Randomly got into heavy music. I was raised on like West Coast hip hop and oldies and stuff like that. And then about 6th grade or so, my sister was dating someone that was into Korn, and I heard Korn for the first time, and I was like, oh, yo, this is what I'm gonna do, like, forever. And then, I mean, I even have like dreads and stuff, and you know what I mean? Like, I look like I could be in Korn.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how it started, and then it just progressed since then. I mean, that's kind of just what I put all of my effort into since being a teenager.
Yeah.
Really.
What were the like besides Korn? What were the bands that like majorly influenced you? Who were like your favorites?
Well, definitely when I was younger, all of that. So like
all that new metal
stuff. New metal, you know, Slipknot and Rage, even though I don't think they're new metal, but you know, they get lumped in with it. All that, and then very soon after that, like punk and hardcore, Suicidal Tendencies, things like that. High school is when hardcore just hit me hard, you know. So Terror, Bury Your Dead, Death Before Dishonor, all that kind of stuff, you know. And then I kind of just stuck with that. Punk also. I was really into hardcore in high school. Kind of fell out of love with it because of just there's some stupid stuff that goes on, you know.
Yeah.
So I just gravitated more to punk and stuff like that. And then not until years later, I was in a band, or I filled in for a band, went on tour with them, fell in love with the hardcore scene again, and then I just,
Yeah, you guys are particularly, a really fun band, I think. Like, when I saw you guys, like, that struck me, how much of a good time it felt like everyone in the band was having. That's and cool. How it, like, spread to me, as an audience member. I think that, like, I tell people all the time, because I make hip-hop music, and so I try to explain to other rappers, the feeling of being at a hardcore show, because I don't think that it's a feeling that other genres get to experience. Because there's not a ritualistic participation in other genres, you know?
Right.
Like, if you're at a hardcore show and you understand, like, all right, this is the part of the song we're gonna two-step, here's the part of the song we're really gonna go at it with the moshing, like, you don't get to experience that in other music genres. Yeah, and I think that hardcore particularly is something that other people don't really get to experience. Do you see that?
Yeah, man. I think anyone of my friends that aren't into hardcore or anything, I try to get them to shows, you know,
yeah.
Because if you experience it live, like the crowd, especially when it's when the crowd knows the lyrics and they're just chanting along and just going off, and I mean, there's really, not much like it, you know.
Yeah.
Although, you know, I've been to hip hop shows that kind of go off a little bit like that, but still, I think it is something that's specific to like the hardcore.
Yeah, you ever listen to Betrayal?
I know that, okay.
I used to be a huge Betrayal fan when they were together, right around when their last album came out, and they had this song Abandon with the vocalist from Ghost Inside had a feature on it, but the chorus was this stomp that would go on for like 2 measures, 3 measures, and then the 4th measure would have this gang vocal to it. And I would tell people, like, it's so great because you're moshing along to the first 3 bars, and then everyone in the pit, out the pit, chants along to that Abandon. And I was like, it's so, everyone's in sync, you know? Like, and it's not, it feels so good to be a part of it like that, where, you don't get that in a lot of things in life. Like, it's very rare. I guess some people probably get it in sports. Are you a sports guy?
No. Really. Yeah.
No. So I assume, like, it's probably the same feeling as if you're a football player and your team does a play perfectly and everybody does their part correctly. Sure. You're like, okay, this is it. It's the same feeling when the band's playing everything right, the vocalist is singing everything right, and the crowd is playing their part as well perfectly, and everything just kind of aligns. So with your guys, you put out 2 singles this year, you said?
Yeah, earlier this year. Yeah.
Do you guys have a specific plan? You have more stuff that's being written? You have any tours that you plan on going on?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, we plan on just hitting it hard, to continue grinding, really.
Mm-hmm.
We've been writing music. We're in this weird place right now where we're trying to record, but we're also talking to some label, maybe, just kind of throwing that up in the air.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, within this like past 2 weeks, that's kind of where we're at. So
so
it's cool.
What's going on?
Yeah. So yeah, we're definitely trying to put out new music by hopefully, I don't know, beginning of next year, and then tour. We're trying to tour every year.
Is there a specific I don't want to say message, because that sounds kind of cheesy. I want to say ethos. Is there a specific, like, fully formed philosophy in your guys' music that you promote?
Yeah, and I think we just try to be who we are, you know, and just kind of whatever we're feeling or going through. I mean, any lyrics that I write is just whatever I'm going through at the time, or I want to highlight a part of my life or something.
Mm-hmm.
We are a Christian band, or we're a band of Christians. I don't know how you would put. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying.
You know, we don't have the whole like I heard someone put it like Jesus per minute like thing in our songs. You know, that's just not who we are.
Mm-hmm.
We just write whatever we write. You know, a lot of our songs are kind of heavy. In lyrical content, kind of darker. But that's what it is to be a human, kind of. You know, you go through all this crazy stuff, and for musicians, that's how we get it out. So that's kind of what we do.
Okay, so it's like a emotional release in your music, you think?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Especially with the newer stuff. Well, even their older stuff. But the newer stuff really is just we're really leaning into what makes us as individuals tick, you know, and really talking about trauma from our past, whatever. You know, we're just because we want to. I think the goal is to make honest music, and then if that can somehow help someone through something in any kind of way, I think that's kind of what it is. You know?
Yeah, right on. I get it. I think that a lot of bands go down a similar route where it's good music to not feel alone, which I think does relate to the whole culture of hardcore, which I think is a culture about coming together and not being alone.
Definitely.
It seems to be a pretty big thing. Do you think that kids who get into heavier music tend to be lonely kids before that?
I guess, kinda, but I think it's the ones that get into it hard, you know, that make it their life. And in hardcore, you can really find that where people are just, you know, traveling just to go to shows and doing all that. I think probably, there's some truth to that.
I wonder if that is true of anything that's extreme. Because, you know, you see like Grateful Dead or Phish fans who do the same thing, even though that music isn't as far away from the mainstream as hardcore is. Do you see a trend in heavy music that it is fading or gaining popularity, like within the mainstream? Because I feel like when I was mostly into it, when I was more into it than I am now, when I was going to shows more regularly, I feel like culturally it was becoming more mainstream, but that may just be my perspective. That was like the early 2010s. And then like you said with Korn, I think during that era as well, like heavier music was surprisingly mainstream. Like I mean, all those bands were like top of the Billboard bands, even though like that music would never be that popular today, it seems.
100,
do you think there is a surge or a fade in the mainstream popularity of it?
Kinda, but I think there's like two or more like levels to where like there is very palatable heavy music out there. And like the people that listen to like the more extreme stuff wouldn't be caught dead listening to that. And vice versa, you know what I mean? So I think I think I can't think of any bands right now, and I also don't want to throw shade on anybody. So, but there for sure are bands that are super popular, sell out, you know, all these venues and festivals, whatever, and are heavy and mainstream. But I don't know how much water it can hold with like the people that
the like hardcore fans,
yeah,
the bass fans, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I see that. I'll tell you what, I'm a big fan of a couple bands that might be that. Because I'll throw shade. I'll throw shade because I love them. I love Knocked Loose and Turnstile.
Oh, yeah.
And both of them, I think, may get to that point where they're so popular that a lot of people are like, whatever, that's like,
for sure,
that's like mainstream hardcore. That's not the real stuff, even though, like, Knocked Loose is heavy. And Turnstile is like some classic stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, they definitely are. I mean, Turnstile blew up.
Yeah.
I mean, Knocked Loose too, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think Turnstile's on a whole other tip. They're like, they're really exploring what it is to be hardcore. Same thing. Yeah. I like, as far as punk goes, like, I believe that, like, punk doesn't have to sound like anything in particular, you know? And it's kind of like that with hardcore too. Like, obviously hardcore kind of comes from punk, but it changed over the years, and Turnstile is really like redefining what hardcore even is.
Yeah, they experiment a lot, and they've brought in elements that I think have, definitely brought them more mainstream attention, and also they take risks with music that sometimes, like, I'll hear a song by them and I'm like, I don't like this, but the beauty of it is them taking the risk and being like, we're gonna try this. I like that you said it doesn't have a particular sound. Like, I tell people a lot that the hip hop I consider punk. Atmosphere. I was a huge Atmosphere fan when I was younger, and I would tell people, like, this is punk hip hop. Like, it's got the same ethos as punk. Like, it's got this vibe that is punk music, even though the aesthetics is hip hop. It's still punk.
100%.
I think there's a big crossover in general with punk and hip hop. A lot of punk guys I know are hip hop fans, and I think a lot of hip hop fans are punk fans as well. Were you into, you ever listen to, like, XXX Tentacion?
Yes. Kind of after he died.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really, he wasn't on my, like, radar. But I forgot the name of the album, the one with the question mark on it.
Yeah.
That's a banger after banger, dude. Yeah, like, I mean, I think he gets a lot of hate for whatever reason, you know. There's a bunch of stuff to pick out there, but musically, I think he was on a whole other tip there.
I have a friend that I got to know through making hip hop, who turned me on to some of XXX's more, like, obscure songs, and, like, the songs where he screams in it, like, it's legit hardcore screams. And when I first heard it, particularly one called Staring at the Sky, where he does, like, this acoustic start where he sings in this, like, very pop punky kind of vocals, and then a breakdown comes in and he starts screaming. And it's so like, oh, this guy is a hardcore fan. Like, you can hear it in the way that he screams, as opposed to, like, you can hear other people who try to bring in heavy music, but they scream like, I don't know, like an Underoath, where it's like, you might not be in the scene as much as somebody who screams in a way that's like, oh, this is like down dirty kind of vocals. Like, he goes to shows, he's been in a mosh pit before. So punk and hip hop, big crossover there. Is there anyone that you are listening to currently that you really enjoy, that you're taking influence from?
Yeah. I mean, I go through, because I like pretty much everything. I used to say, like, everything but country, but people are showing me some stuff. I'm like, this is pretty good, so, you know. But I listen to a lot, like, especially right now since we're writing and stuff, I try not to listen to heavy music because it, like, will influence me too much, you know?
Yeah.
But, I mean, I've been on a big Expire tip, you know Expire?
No.
Hardcore band. They're not a band anymore. But they just have this like ferocity, and like the dude's vocals are just so angry, and it gets me where I need to be sometimes. So I've been heavy on that lately.
Okay. What are these non-hardcore music that you're listening to?
Well, I listen to a lot of hip hop for sure. I listen to a lot of like pop and like female vocal stuff.
We might be on the same.
Yeah.
I was just talking. I went to Knott's Berry Farm with a group of the young adults from my church yesterday. And I was ranting about how much I love the Evermore album by Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. I'm a huge fan of like this like current wave of female pop stars. Her, Billie Eilish, and Olivia Rodrigo. Their albums from the past couple of years I listen to on repeat.
Yeah.
I just love the really clean production that like Billie Eilish and Olivia Rodrigo specifically have, where like it all blends together so well, but there's still somehow dynamics, and there's always this like really thick 808 bass throughout it. And I'm like, this is so smooth and clean. Like it's such good everyday kind of music. Like whenever I'm driving, like it's not it doesn't get me as anxious as some. It doesn't take as much work as other stuff, you know?
Oh, definitely.
There's a like I'll watch. You watch Bob's Burgers?
No, I've seen it, but yeah.
That's a show that I can turn on anytime and watch. I also love Rick and Morty, but like that one I won't turn on and watch all the time because it takes so much effort.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how like those female pop singers are, where like I can turn it on anytime and enjoy it, but like if I'm listening to something that's more experimental or more heavy or more anxiety inducing, it's like I love it, but it takes a little bit of work for me to enjoy it the way I need to. So I need a break from it sometimes, you know?
100. Yeah, there's this band, Warpaint. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I feel like I have.
They're all female musicians, but they just write the dopest music, and it's all chill, super danceable, but it's all just really kind of shoegazy. Their vocals are just beautiful. Really, they really explore different ways of getting across their what they want to do. I can't even put it into words how much I love them, but they're just the riffs that they write are just weird and like not what you would think, but it all meshes well together. They're just, I mean, I would highly recommend Warpaint, especially.
Yeah, it sounds good. I like shoegazy stuff.
Yeah.
I like stuff that's floaty, if that makes sense. Like that can just drift away into different sections and it all blends together, you know?
Yeah.
I watched a video this morning on Tame Impala. You ever listen to them?
Oh, I've heard them, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of them, but they have this song, Let It Happen, where there's one synth riff is playing and the drums are playing and it's going along, and then the track skips, and then the skips happen again, and it just repeats the skip, and that becomes the new rhythm for the next section of the song.
That's dope.
And like if you're paying attention to it, you go like, "Oh, what was that?" And then you hear it. But if you don't pay attention, I assume it's made for club dancing. Like if you're in the club and you're dancing to it, it'll just blend into the next section of the song seamlessly, and I love that. I love smooth transitions that are still dramatic.
Yeah.
Like it's a big change, but it just happens without you needing to pay attention to it.
Yeah, I love even in a lot of like modern hip hop, like for example, Kendrick Lamar, but like a lot of his beats are not just your straight up like boom bap styles.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of composition going on in there, and it's just man, like, and the same thing, like the transitions are seamless but dramatic at the same time.
Yep.
And it just, man, has so much character, adds so much more to his already like dope lyrics, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is one of my favorite things in like modern hip hop is the like dramatic beat switches in the middle of a song that changes the feel completely, especially because it makes you wonder like, okay, why'd you make this the same song? Like how?
Right.
What idea? Like it's one idea because you made it one song. So how is this idea changing through this beat change? Yeah, I mean that DNA beat switch is one of the first ones that comes to mind. Where it's his flow switch. It almost feels like the switch happens on a 3, and so for the rest of the track, everything's off beat halfway. But because it's continuous, it works well. Yeah, I love the beat switches. I actually I've been working on a new EP from the start of the year, and I'm so close to finishing it. I have like one bridge to write, and there's this one song that I have struggled with for months to try and figure out how to make right. And I've talked about it on a previous episode where like I figured out this key switch in the lyrics to write, and it was like, oh, I think it's coming together. And then like a couple weeks ago, second half of the song, I just made a whole new beat for it like that, where like I was like, okay, now it works. Like it was lacking something before. I switched the beat completely. It went from like smooth pianos into like these really heavy synths and 808s, and I was like, okay, this shift is what it needed to bring the whole idea together. Do you write music quickly, or does it take you a long time to write?
Both. I think, yeah. I think sometimes I'll have just one little piece of an idea, and it'll take me forever to just flesh it out. And then sometimes we'll like be jamming or something, and then just we get a whole song out of it, you know?
Okay.
So yeah, and then lyrically, pretty quick though. I don't know. I've always just wrote stuff. Just I don't know if it's even poetry. I just write things, you know. So I really like that. So I think when I write lyrics, it's a little quicker than the musical part of it.
And do you tend to, when you write lyrics, do you tend to have music already in mind, or do you just write lyrics and then when there's a musical idea that fits, do you go like, oh, I got something for this, let's throw it in here?
Yeah, I like writing to music that is already a thing.
Okay, yeah.
But like I said, I do write all the time, so I have a bunch of just ideas, like, oh man, this would be dope for like this type of part of a song. And then a lot of times, you know, Eddie, the vocalist, will have something that's like kind of the same, or like, oh, you know, this can go really well with this. So it does kind of happen like that too. But I definitely prefer writing to something that's already there. It's just easier for me. Flows better, I think.
Yeah, I get you. I think that way also, it can sometimes not leave waste, in the sense that like if you're writing to something, you know that it'll fit with something, as opposed to sometimes you write just lyrics and then you're never really able to find the right thing to pair it with.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, this doesn't really fit with this. I was thinking today or yesterday about how, like, I've always wanted to write narratives, like stories for TVs or books or whatever. But I have a bit of a inability to finish stuff.
I hear that.
And so, like, songwriting seems to hit this perfect balance where I can just focus on a verse and get that done in a day, and then I have that, you know, and I can use it for something. Whereas, like, if I was to write a story, maybe I can get a chapter done in a day. But that doesn't really stand on its own the way that a verse does. You know, it only takes like 3 verses, and then there you got basically a song where like you're gonna have to string together a lot of narrative pieces to try and come up with something like that. Yeah, do you take inspiration from any other forms of media besides music?
Definitely. I mean, for sure, music is just my life, you know?
Yeah.
So, it's usually something to do with music. But yeah, I mean, I'll be, I get, moved by just, like, art and creation. So, like, you know, when you can see, like, the passion behind it or the heart behind it, that gets me, you know, whether it is like a movie or a show. Like, for example, there's, okay, so I don't know if you've seen Reservation Dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's just some really good writing in that show.
Yeah.
And it just gets me, you know.
I'm glad that you are. I'm glad that you're a fan of that, because I don't know how many people I know who have seen that, but it is a great show.
Yeah, that's. I mean, every episode is just so well written and thought out, and you know the acting, everything's great, but what gets me is just the writing behind it. It's just, man.
I love dramedies. Like if something's too serious, I won't be able to be hooked long enough to get to like the dramatic changes, you know. But if something's funny enough to keep me interested and then hits me with something emotional, like that's my favorite type of media. And Reservation Dogs has that, where like it brings you into the episodes by being funny, and then it will give you something really dramatic to be like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's created by Taika Waititi. Are you a fan of his generally?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah?
I can't think of anything that he's done that I don't like.
Yeah. I loved. I like a lot of his stuff. I haven't seen his Marvel stuff because I'm not. I don't watch Marvel stuff ever. But I've wanted to. Like those are the ones where I hear about it and I'm like, he made it. Okay, I might check out this Hulk movie or Thor. I loved Jojo Rabbit. It's so goofy and so like it's that combination where it's like something so horribly dark, but done in such a goofy way that people criticized it for making light of the Holocaust, which really I think what it does is point out the absurdity of racism, because that's why you laugh, because you're going like, these people are so absurd to believe this stuff. This can't be a human belief here. And so I love that it's well done satire. I think that everyone's able, that the viewer is able to watch it and be like, these people are so dumb.
I like anytime you can like take the power away from things like that, you know, and it's done a lot. I think, you know, sometimes people just don't understand it, and they're kind of seeing things on the surface level. But I think that's one of the best ways we can like change things. Is doing that, you know, taking the power back from you know, things like that.
Especially with like, I think there's a lot of people who would prefer to be a monster than to be a joke. So like if you see someone horrible and you tell them like, hey, you're the worst, you're a terrible creature, they might take that as like, yeah, that's right, I am, and you should be afraid of me. Whereas if you go, you're really pathetic, it's something that people, I think, are more inclined to be like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be pathetic. I'd rather be a monster than something that's laughed at and humiliated.
That's an interesting concept. But yeah, you're 100% right with that.
Yeah, right. I mean, even to get back to hardcore, I think that's why there's some people that like heavy music, is because they want to have that powerful feeling of being just full of hate.
Yeah.
We used to call it like the hatecore bands around here, where like you'd go to the show and it would just be people crowd bashing and just music about how life is meaningless and I'm a hate everything, and people enjoy that feeling of just emptiness and hatred. What do you think about that?
That's why when I was younger I kind of stopped going to hardcore shows and stuff. But then, on the flip side of that, like now, like I don't know, I enjoy the passion behind it. I still don't like, me and the guitarist from Doulos, we went to this show a couple weeks ago, or maybe like a week ago. Lionheart, E-Town Concrete, Fury of 5. And it was like a tough people, like it was crazy. Great. One of the better shows I've been to in a long time. But, it was a lot of that, as far as the crowd goes. A lot of just people that I'm like, you know what, I don't think I'm going to dance today. I don't want to like hit the wrong person or something.
I get you.
But I do enjoy, like our thing has always been like crowd kill your friends, I'll punch my friends as much as I can at shows, and I'll definitely do that. But yeah, all this like just like there's something to prove, and we have friends in like I don't know if you're familiar with like beatdown hardcore.
Yeah. But
like we have friends that are in that, and we love going to the shows. We love playing. I was in like a beatdown band, but there's just a lot of just people just looking for trouble, it seems, and a lot of those people are like my friends or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. There is an element of that it's almost like there's a active war of ideas between like a more unity-based hardcore and a more hatred-based hardcore. And I think that the war is kind of beautiful, and that's why I think it is more enjoyable to be possibly around something that's passionately hateful than something that's just passionless in general. You know what I mean?
For sure, yeah.
Because there's at least some honesty to that is really, where you're at.
Yeah.
Sometimes I took this parenting class once, and part of the class they talked about neglected kids and how neglected kids feel like they're constantly leaning on a wall that isn't there because they never had boundaries, so they don't have any boundaries to lean on, and I feel like the fact that you get to these scenes where there's diametrically opposed views, but like they're done passionately, you have something to push against, as opposed to something that's passionless where you go to push and then you fall and you don't know where your own boundaries are,
Yeah, 100%. And I appreciate that whole, especially like the music as far as beatdown goes, like just the riffs, the fight riffs, they're just how can you not want to just like bang your fists on the floor, and so I get it. And also, what's the phrase, like hurting people kind of thing, and in that environment, like it's kind of okay to like punch some people, and they're not going to get offended. They might, whatever, but it's a like an acceptable
form of violence. Like, we all agree upon it going into it. Yeah, I like to fight. I do MMA.
Okay.
And it's the same thing where, like, it's like I hate to hurt people. Like, I'm terrified, even like when I'm sparring, that like if I land a punch too hard, I'm like, oh, are you okay? But like the fact that it's like this consensual violence means like, okay, we can really test ourselves and push ourselves and be in this environment that I think a lot of us crave. I think a lot of people kind of crave violence, but violence outside of the right bounds is terrible, and we understand that. So we go like, hey, what if we have this culture where we just play heavy music and we punch each other, and that'll be a way to experience that violence that we crave innately, and not actually hurt anybody.
It's funny when we go to or we play shows that have a hardcore crowd and a punk crowd.
Yeah.
Because, like, the punk crowd doesn't understand, and, like, they don't get that, like, it's kind of like a safe space, even though there's some crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
Like, these people aren't trying to, like, hurt you or like fight you necessarily. Of course, sometimes that happens, but you get somebody who's just dancing and like throws a fist or a leg somewhere, and someone's not paying attention, they get hit, and then it starts this whole fight or whatever, and it just doesn't need to happen. But I also understand it, if you don't know,
what the like cultural norms are, then you start thinking, oh, this person doesn't like me, where it's like, no, he might like you more. Like, it may be a sign that like we're best friends if I'm hitting you, you know? I when I was going to shows, mostly I was younger, and I recently went to a show for this band Cake Eater, which is a great band. I had their guitarist on a couple months ago. They played a show at a bar, though, and I think that was the first time I'd been to a hardcore show at a bar, besides like House of Blues or something where there's a real pit. And it was strange, because I was thinking, like, am I able to mosh here? Because, like, what if somebody spills their drink?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you guys, you're straight edge, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys play at bars often? It's such a weird idea to me.
All the time.
Yeah.
But, that goes along with, like I said, we're Christian, right? And, but we're not, we're called to be, like, out there,
Yeah.
So we will play anywhere with any band, and that's just where we need to be. As far as the straight edge thing goes, I'm not that kind of straight edge person where it's like, I'm going to punch you because you're smoking cigarettes or whatever. I used to hate straight edge people when I was younger.
I understand that.
But also early 2000s was different. The straight edge thing was much more intolerant, and but we're not about that at all. Like, we don't, like, that's just our thing,
Yeah.
The majority of my friends are not straight edge, you know what I mean?
Do you notice a difference playing at like actual bars as opposed to like more open venues that are like all ages, or like churches, or? Well,
I definitely would prefer to play at like venues, just because you don't get the people, like, so at a bar you'll get people that are just there for the bar, and they didn't know that there was this crazy show going on. So it just can breed some obviously fights can break out, but more so than not, it's just like people there are just not enjoying their time because they didn't want to see a band play. They just wanted to chill with whoever they're there with, and so I would definitely prefer to play venues, but I'm not going to stop playing bars.
Do you have a particular favorite venue that you've played at?
I mean, so far, Chain Reaction's really fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also just from going to shows there.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, when I've played there, they're just on top of it. They just know how to take care of you, you know, as far as sound wise and everything like that.
Yeah. Is it still? Because I haven't been there in years at this point. How is it doing, especially like post-COVID? I know that they were worried about closing down. I got one of them Save Chain sweaters.
Yeah.
Is it, do you know if it's like back and running, normal business as usual? Is there, because I'm always like, is there even kids listening to hardcore these days, or is hardcore just for the oldies now?
No, there's definitely, they're back up and running. Yeah,
okay.
For sure. And also, with new bands, there's definitely a lot of young people listening to hardcore right now.
Yeah.
But it's different though, because, for instance, it was at Chain Reaction. I saw this band, Drain. You know Drain?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I went for Terror, actually. Terror was playing.
Okay, yeah.
And I've been listening to them forever. And Drain was playing. And other bands were playing too, but, so we were there, and the crowd is all young people, and it goes completely nuts for Drain. And then Terror comes on, and like most of the people leave, and like, dude, this is like one of the biggest hardcore bands, and most important in my opinion, of that style of hardcore. And no one was even. It wasn't like other Terror shows I've been to. So it just showed me that like there is a whole new generation of hardcore kids out there listening to Drain and Scowl and Turnstile, you know, and Knock Loose. Interestingly enough, with Knock Loose, I try to see them as much as I can. I saw them somewhere. I don't remember. I've seen them a lot of places.
Yeah. And
again, young people. And the craziest thing is when I would see them the first couple times I saw them, ultra violent, super, you know, great. And then, you know, years later, I see them. It's kind of a newer crowd. And I'm hearing people like yelling out like, no crowd moshing, whatever. And I get it, but it's just like at a Knock Loose show, that's kind of what happens as far as I've experienced, you know. But it's there's just a whole new breed of hardcore kids out there, and I'm about it.
Yeah, it seems like there is a different style of dancing than there was when I was big into shows, and not as much as of the full force punching and kicking.
Right.
I had a buddy call me a couple weeks ago and was like, hey, I got this ticket to go see Devil Wears Prada. Do you want to go? And so we went to see Devil Wears Prada, and man, I wish I could remember the opener band because they were really good. A woman vocalist. And then the in-between band was Stray from the Path.
Dope.
And I saw Stray from the Path actually with Terror.
Okay.
Years ago, 2011, I think, Acacia Strain headlined. And the singer from Stray from the Path was kind of chubby and had dark hair. And I don't know if you've seen him recently, but like he is shredded and has like green hair and was wearing like a mesh shirt and stuff. And like to me, I was like, oh, this is gonna get super violent. But not the same kind of violence that it was when I would have seen them 10 years ago. You know, it's much less fists being thrown, a lot more pushing, kind of moshing, looking like that's coming back in style. And it was just interesting to see like a different style of dance. And it could be that it was a different crowd because like Devil Wears Prada was headlining, and they attract a different crowd than Stray from the Path does. But it seemed to me like that may have been a different style, that just like that's what you do at hardcore shows now. Yep. Yes. So I gotta ask this. You're a vegan, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up with that?
Yeah. Well, I've been vegetarian since I was like, I don't know, like 18 or something.
Okay.
I've only been vegan for like this year. I don't remember when, but pretty much this year. I don't know. I just felt like I don't really need to be. I only was eating what wasn't vegan. So like I was eating like eggs and cheese. I think that was like the only thing that would qualify me for not being vegan. So I just stopped eating that.
You have why is it just like a health thing, or is it a moral thing? Is it what's your reasoning behind it?
Well, when I was young, it was like the whole, punk meat is murder thing. I was all about it, and then I've since changed my views on that. For me, I don't feel like I should be eating meat. I don't care if anyone else does. I don't think that by not eating meat we're gonna save animals or the planet or anything. And that might be a little cynical, but it's just not for me. It's not so much about any of that stuff. I do feel like I don't want animals to die, for sure. But again, like I'm all for people like hunting and doing their thing. I think when it gets to like factory farming and stuff,
I think that becomes the bigger issue.
Yeah, right? It's kind of cringy. But I think my views changed a lot. Years ago, I was trying to work for this organization that helps shut down factory farms. And the position was for a private investigator. And when I was like interviewing for it, the person was like, well, like you're not gonna actually like save animals while you're there. Like you're just gonna go work on like a factory farm and like take pictures as much as you can, figure out all the illegal stuff they're doing, and then report back, and then we'll do all legal things to like shut them down. Yeah. But you're not gonna like go uncage a bunch of animals, and like you might even have to like do some stuff you're not like morally with. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Yeah. So I didn't work for them, but and that just changed my perspective a little bit. And it was like, well, yes, one person can change things, but also there's just this whole system, and we're kind of born into it, and it's not that it can't be changed. I think it is changing, but just not the way that I thought it was going to, where boots on the ground, let's go. Like I wasn't going to go that route, but like the whole like Earth crisis, like eco-terrorism kind of crazy stuff, like I don't think that really changes anything, you're just,
it is, like you said, it's like a system that people are born into. It's also like it's much worse for us here in America to be factory farming, because like we don't need cheap food. Like we have enough. We waste food. Like we have much more than we need, as opposed to like if a developing nation is factory farming and having animals brought up in terrible conditions, where it's like, well, they probably need as much cheap food and protein as they can get, so it's like different for them. Here though, we probably need to make some changes to the way we get our food, but I don't know. I don't know enough. I'm speaking out of ignorance.
No, I get that for sure. Like, I think, there's a lot that could be done on like the personal level, but that, you would have to change people's minds, and it's not like that, and again, if we're being like biblical about it, I'm not to judge someone for eating meat when I don't, and like versely, they're not to judge me for not eating meat or whatever, like it's not, everything's okay for us to eat. Everything's okay for me to eat.
Here's a question, because I was wondering this, because I had a big old bag of candy on my drive up here. Sour candy, like gummy candies.
Yeah.
Is that non-vegan?
It's non-vegan, yeah. There's gelatin in most.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a tough route. I don't know how you do it. No,
Bro,
no
yeah.
Sour Patch watermelons, man. Those are my life right there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
there's
dude.
so much stuff that has like eggs or egg whites or gelatin.
Yeah, I'm a big candy person.
Yeah.
Gummy candy for sure. But yeah, it has gelatin in it. You can't do that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, it's whatever. I shouldn't be eating too much candy anyway, right?
Yeah, right. It kind of works out right like that, where you make those choices on both a personal moral level and then also like health reasons. Like there's a lot of stuff that like I drink almond milk instead of regular milk because like regular milk is like 3 times the calories that almond milk has. Almond milk, you get a good brand of almond milk, 30 calories a cup. You can put that on your cereal, barely even get anything out of it. So we're reaching the end of the episode here. I always give the guests the time to shout out any artists, any businesses, anything that you think that doesn't get enough eyes on it that you want people to check out.
Oh, for sure. Definitely our homies, The Hated. They're a band. We played with them yesterday. They are so good. They're kind of they're a punk band, but like almost hardcore. They're very heavy. But just all of them are super cool, and they work really, really hard. And I think everybody needs to get behind them for sure.
Okay.
I would definitely shout out other bands too, like our Dreadworm is another homie band. Iron Rule is another homie band. Man, there's a kind of a lot, but yeah, those are kind of local-ish, So I would definitely say check all them out for sure.
Okay, awesome. Then that's gonna do it for this episode. Before I go, September 30th, guys, I'm gonna be fighting at I fight at this monthly like weed convention.
Word, okay.
They sell a bunch of drugs on tables. I'm the one fighter that the promoter goes, "Do you want your goodie bag?" And I'm like, "Does it have anything that doesn't have drugs in it?" No, I'm good. I got candy one time though. They gave me free candy one time. I was like, "That's all right. That's enough payment for me."
That's cool.
Got a kickboxing match then, and then the 7th, I'm gonna be playing a show. You guys got any shows coming up?
No shows. Oh, actually, yes, we do. Sorry.
Okay.
The 20th in Desert Hot Springs. Not sure the venue, but it's with the band Facelift. We played with them last night as well. And other than that, recording. That's all we're going to be focusing on.
Okay, so stick around for the new Doulos album. Actually, somebody I went to hang out at Knott's Berry Farm with yesterday has a Doulos tattoo.
Trip out.
Yeah, she said what it means, but I don't remember.
Got you.
Something about Holy Spirit?
Not quite. So, Doulos. Yeah. Pretty much means bondservant. Bondservant of Christ. You know. We're set free, right? But we choose to serve to serve Jesus,
Okay. Yeah, awesome. All right, thank you guys for listening. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. All right. I'm feeling blessed. Tell me, how are you? Just let me know if there's anything that I could do.